Anti-Afro Bengalis. I'm coming on here because I wanted to address a couple of things. Number one, there were people who were asking me questions about live streams. I was going to try to answer those questions as I stated yesterday, and then I'm going to follow up on the 2 videos that I posted today, the revolting commentary that you heard on live streams that were reposted, and my response to those, specifically as it relates to anti-fraud warrior conduct and what differentiates anti-fraud warrior conduct from other conduct. Now, I recognize there are people who have shared spaces with individuals who engage in this type of behavior. And I also recognize that at one time, there may have been a feeling of a close bond that you may have perceived that you had with people, and there may be ongoing conflict about those relationships that you had with those people. However, that can't play out here, which means there will not be any sort of defending anybody who you shared those spaces with, who you heard in those videos, regardless of who's on the other side. This is not playing out in this space. And I will be perfectly clear as to reasons for that. Individuals like the ones you heard today are incredibly abusive, have been incredibly abusive, not just towards me, but other people who post on this channel. Many of them are blocked, and they have made comments during live streams, whatever live stream they may happen to bounce around to at any given time. We have the audio, we have the screenshots. So if someone has engaged in that behavior, they are not going to be someone who is going to be defended on this channel. Their battles are not going to be fought on this channel. To me, these people are in the same category as Umar Johnson. We don't leave any pro-Umar Johnson messages on this channel. It is not something that we are going to debate. So there is no debating whether or not the people that you heard today are abusive. Now, there is actually one exception. One of the male individuals, if he appears here, he appears here. He does sometimes leave comments. That's the exception. And there's something else I want to say. I never came here to YouTube at all. It was never in the cards. I never considered it. And to this day, I stand by it. To plan any sort of engagement, discussion. I was not planning to try to convince anybody who supported Umar Johnson to believe what I'm saying. That was never my goal. My goal was to connect with people who were interested in holding Umar accountable. My concern is not trying to convince those who support Umar to come along. It's the same thought process that applies to scenarios once it has been confirmed that people are the way they are. And you saw those descriptors in the title of the last 2 videos. Once it's been confirmed, there is no sense of wasting time arguing about. It is what it is. But listen to this. You can believe this? People will come for you. They will punish you if you set a boundary and you stand your ground because you refuse to participate in these garbage, trash live streams. I cannot tell you how many times people have tried to get me in those loud-filled live streams. I have refused repeatedly, and here come the attacks. Setting a standard you're called a bully. Yes, people, I'm called a bully because I have some standards. Let me give you an example. When people wanting me to come onto a live stream to have a quote debate or discussion, or they want me to come to their channel and leave comments, and I have made it very clear I do not leave comments on message boards where abusers and attackers and people who have threatened my life and the lives of people that I care about are running rampant. If you want me to participate or have any discussion with you, you need to get your live stream under control, because I'm not going to subject myself to abuse. You're being controlling. You're trying to tell us what to do. See what I'm saying? But they're unwilling to assert boundaries to keep people safe. They call you the bully, but they'll subject you to abuse. Get it, people? Then they start calling you names. They start calling me names. They start characterizing people who participate in this channel as a cult, because we want to exist in safe spaces. And it's not just one live stream that says and does that. And then they complain, she blocks people over there. You damn right I do. Because I made that pledge at the very beginning when I started this channel. People wanted to come and leave comments on a channel without being verbally abused. And I'm sticking by it. It is revolting. So let's dovetail into the issues about live streams, because I've been on the receiving end of it. I have been a moderator, and I've had other moderators curse me with the freaking F word, and the host would not do anything about it. And I'm the one that has the issue. Some people who think they can get away with this type of behavior think it depends on who the host is or their relationship with the host. It doesn't make any difference who the person is. Nobody's going to seek refuge behind any host and abuse me. I'm going to address that issue. For those of you who do forget, confrontation in my line of work is not a dirty word. It is about timing when you will confront an issue. So I basically take a step back, reevaluate a situation, and I will address the situation. But the issue absolutely is going to be confronted. So it just so happens now I moderate in one live stream that deals mainly with Umar, but they're doing some other issues as well. And I moderate in 2 other live streams that deal with a variety of issues, and sometimes they deal with Umar issues. And all 3 of these live streams have pretty much the same approach to dealing with these issues, which fits with how I deal with issues. So it's a match. If somebody comes on and they're coming for moderators, or someone's in the chat and they're coming after people, the host puts the brakes on. Typically, people are complaining because they have been blocked. So if they've been blocked, they find a way to get around that and come in and complain, I guess under a different name, to the host. So the host will say, basically, get your bitch ass up here. I'm going to unblock you, and you need to come up here and explain yourself why you're doing what you were doing. That's how you deal with situations. You don't penalize the people who are doing the right thing because you don't want to deal with this situation. That's how you handle situations. And it shows a model to other people that inappropriate behavior, regardless of the origins, is not tolerated. But as you have seen people, they're given a forum to engage in abusive behaviors, and they are protected by live stream hosts. That's what we've seen in this so-called Umar subject space. So now you have in most of these spaces very little distinction between these live streams. And this is what people are coming to me complaining about. I can't do anything about this situation. I just found spaces that meet with my personality and hosts who are willing to confront the issues when people get out of line. Therefore, it doesn't happen as often. And actually, there's a tolerance when it comes to dissension, which means people can disagree and they can have opposing views on the panel because it's managed, versus a situation where you have to keep people away because when they come on, they're going to be totally out of control. That's the situation, people. People have to be willing to address and confront these issues, or you will continue to see what you are seeing right now. If you have a concern, because people have brought stuff to my attention, what you can do is speak up, because I am not the kind of person that's going to be cursed at and be quiet about it. I'm going to address the issue. So what you do, you address it. Hopefully the host will address the issue. If that doesn't alleviate the issue, you have a choice. You can continue to insist the issue be addressed, which is what I do. I will remain and I will continue to insist. What I will not ever do is sit quietly and allow anybody to abuse me. So what is going to happen, either they're going to get sick and tired of me, they're going to boot me, or I'm going to bounce. You have your choice. You get to make a choice. I just simply encourage people, set your standard and stick with it. But you have to realize people will kick and scream when you try to set boundaries. It's not about trying to control someone's live stream if the behavior is impacting you. That's what you have to look at, is the behavior impacting you. If the behavior is just something that's offensive and if you don't like, that's another issue. But anyone who hosts a channel, hopefully they will be concerned enough to at least listen to what you have to say. Hopefully. Again, set your standard and stick with it. And recognize you can be penalized for that. But for me keeping my standards is a lot more important than someone trying to penalize me for it. Because I live with my standards. Nobody else. Keep that in mind. Everybody is different. You just have to decide what is important to you. For me, I'm going to enjoy my time on YouTube. No one's going to deprive me of that. Give or take a couple of, ups and downs, blows here and there, I'm satisfied. And I have, let me tell you, great relief that I don't share spaces with the ilk that you heard in those videos today. Another question people are asking me about topics. Ask the person if they want to address the topic. It's up to the host if they want to address the topic. It's not a topic of discussion to say, why won't so-and-so address this in their live stream? That would not be appropriate. The reason why we pose that question to Umar when it comes to why won't he bring up topics, because Umar thinks he is the authority on everything that comes up with black folks, but he's staying away from certain topics because we know he doesn't want to be put on Front Street. So he is afraid of certain people. So Umar won't speak up. But we can't implore anybody to bring up any topic on their live stream. If they want to bring it up, they bring it up. If they don't, they don't. So I don't have any control over that. I just suggest you ask the person whose live stream that you're participating in. There are a lot of topics. There are topics that I'm not really crazy about addressing, but honestly, if people continue to ask, I only feel that it's respectful because you're listening to the channel and you want to hear. It's only fair. That's how I look at it. And number two, if I don't do the video, I'm never going to hear the end of it, right, people? I don't have any control what anyone else says or does in their live stream. I would encourage you to think about what you want to get out of a live stream, figure out whether or not you're getting it, and then make your decision. You know, when it comes down to it, it does mean you're going to have to balance reality. The reality is you're dealing with someone else's channel, and compromise is involved. There goes another decision. What are you willing to compromise? And I'll tell you, for me, what I was not willing to compromise, let me put it in the form of an example first. When you have the national Democratic and Republican conventions, do you see each of those parties walking around each other's convention openly? Or do they have their own convention and their own agendas and their own speeches and their own coordination? They have their own. And I wouldn't even necessarily label them mortal enemies where they are threatening each other's families. We're not talking about that. They don't agree necessarily, although they're required to work together as a matter of legislation. But we're talking about something different here. You're talking about people who have literally threatened the live stream host, the live stream host family, and or people who supported those who did that. And then you have moderators who claim to rock with the live stream host, who then are moderators for people who support those who threaten the live stream host, or who sat in those spaces where that behavior was endorsed, cheered on, etc. And you have that going on, people in those same spaces. For me, that's a deal breaker. For you, maybe it doesn't matter. It just depends. Now, some people want to say things like, it's just YouTube. People can have that perspective if they like. It's not reality, because you hear people saying that, and look how much time they spend on YouTube. A hell of a lot more time than I even can imagine spending on YouTube. You hear people saying that, and here you have people getting arrested because of what they're doing on YouTube. It's just YouTube, and here you have a situation where we have to call the FBI because people have threatened other people. Over what, people? Give me a break. It's just YouTube. People facing federal charges. It's just YouTube. People lost their lives. It's just YouTube. Get real, people. People can pretend all day long. Social media is something that a great many people go to for respite. People make a living off of social media. So people can quit trying to fool themselves into thinking it's not important, it's not relevant. The ones that are saying that are spending 5 to 24 hours a day on YouTube, and they're trying to tell you it's just YouTube. Have the courage to make a decision, because unfortunately the inability to make a decision is why situations that we have seen have escalated. Like I mentioned earlier about boundaries. The longer you go without setting boundaries, the worse a situation becomes. So you may look at a situation and you think it's quiet, while the people who appear to be on your side in your live stream are off somewhere else talking shit about you and spreading rumors about your family. So these are the people that people chose to align with. And hey, go for it. Enemies in the same space leads to disaster. So that is my deal breaker. And it came with an incredible amount of relief to get myself out of those situations. The goal is on Umar Johnson being held accountable. That's always been the goal. We have never wavered from that. It doesn't matter what's happening here on YouTube, but there's one thing I want to make sure everybody understands very clearly, and there's no mistake about it. If I need to continue to come on here and remind everybody that there is a clear distinction between what anti-fraud warriors stand for and what absolutely is not what anti-fraud warriors represent, I will do that. I will make it unequivocally clear, because let me tell you, this last situation here, it did make me incredibly angry. And I'm going to tell you why. It is one thing if somebody is going to talk shit about me, anti-Afro-Senegalese. That is another thing if you're going to insult my parents. Don't ever think that you can come from my parents by associating me with trash. My parents did not raise trash. I will not be associated with trash. Listen, if I need to come on here and remind people what distinguishes anti-fraud warriors from what isn't, I will do that, because I am associated with anti-fraud warriors, and I will make sure the distinction is unequivocally clear. In the meantime, you know the drill. Buyer beware.